Hey guys, good old JM here, and this is your WWE Hell in a Cell 2017 review. The show just finished about 10 minutes ago. It did go over about half an hour, but then again, it's their pay-per-view, it's their network, so they can do whatever they want with it. Interesting enough, when No Mercy went off the air, they just barely got at the 11 o'clock hour Eastern Standard Time to go off the air with Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman, but considering the amount of time the main event was given, it's understandable why they went overtime. But overall, even though I'm going to go match by match here and just the highlights of each one, I got to say it was a pretty good show. Not bad, not good. Somewhere in the middle. It wasn't even a dull moment that made the show too boring or it dragged for too long. Uh, there might be a close candidate for that, but we'll get to it. So let's just get right into it here. As the kickoff show saw the Hype Bros, Zack Ryder and Mojo Rawley, in a tag match against Shelton Benjamin and Chad Gable. I'm wondering if Shelton and Gable will ever come up with a team name, considering that they're going to stick around together for a little while, at least until things shake up, so to speak, in the tag team division on SmackDown. But at least now they're matching ring attires. I believe tonight was the first time they matched design, colors, of course, ring attire together, and they had a decent match. Nothing fast in here, nothing special. As I guess between the two, the more baby faces of the two teams was Shelton and Gable, and they defeat the Hype Bros here. They showed the video package right before about dissensions among the Hype Bros, whether or not they're going to keep it together or keep it moving or go the separate ways. But not much of a follow up here. Maybe a little more intel this Tuesday on SmackDown. We'll find out. So we get into the main card. The opening match was epic. Was these guys just seem to want to top themselves every single time they're on pay-per-view, every single time they clash with each other. It was for the SmackDown Tag Team titles, Hell in a Cell match. The Usos, Jimmy and Jay versus the New Day, the team of Big E and Xavier Woods. Interesting enough because usually it's Kofi Kingston, unless there was a coin toss or maybe Kofi Kingston got the short end of the straw. But words cannot describe this match enough. It was amazing from start to finish. They pulled out weapons almost as soon as the bell rang. Kendo sticks, steel chairs. A couple of the kendo sticks were painted or wrapped in rainbow tape colors, which I thought was very very funny and unique. Big E would hit several suicide dives through the ropes, but of course with the Hell in a Cell in play, he made contact with the cell head first. The first time seemed more legit than the second time, but second time looked more cringeworthy, being because the Usos had Big E for the looked like a Doomsday Device position, but instead of hitting a clothesline, because I believe it was Jimmy. Jimmy was holding a Big E on his shoulders, and Jay had to basically hit the ropes from the inside of the ring, do his suicide dive through the ropes, and shoulder block Big E into the back of his head, making contact with the Hell in a Cell, and that looked brutal. They showed several camera angles. None weren't too clear, but I'm assuming that Big E made contact enough where he looked dizzy and groggy for the rest of the match. Either that or he knows how to sell very well. They were, oh my God, this match had everything. I wrote this down in my notes. This match had everything but the kitchen sink. There was a cowbell was used. A gong was used. I mentioned kendo sticks, and so many super kicks throughout the match by the Usos. It's just unbelievable. I don't know why they overuse the super kick, but they do. What seemed to be a botched move, but not too bad because no one seemed to come away hurt from it. It was a Nugarari. I'm speaking of botches. I just botched that name, but it's like the standing rock bottom. Okay, that move. Uh, can't pronounce it. I apologize. But there was the standing rock bottom code breaker combination where Big E was holding up Jimmy on the apron and was giving him the standing rock bottom move onto the floor. So from the apron to the floor, and Xavier Woods came running with the double knees, code breaker style, nailing Jimmy out. And when I said botched, it looked like Jimmy might have just missed the targets, that being Xavier's knees. Not to mention Xavier Woods was wrestling in a metal knee brace. So whether it was the adrenaline or it wasn't that bad, but it just looked like Jimmy missed his target and didn't walk away that unscathed. But you could tell it bothered him for the next few minutes for the rest of the match. And the Usos at one point would cuff Xavier Woods his hands in front of him, but would hang him from the ring post, that huge wide LED ring post now, and just beat the crap out of him with the kendo sticks over and over again. Byron Saxton and Corey Graves were talking about possible broken ribs, and it wouldn't surprise me, or even at least bruised ribs, because there was some swelling in the abdominal area of Xavier Woods by the end of the match, and it would not surprise me if there was any bruised ribs. This was a very physical match. I believe it's the first of its kind tag team championship match inside Hell in a Cell. And the Usos at the end would try to do their double body splash off the top rope on Big E, but he would kick out and eventually is saved by Xavier Woods for the pin. And then it's quite a spot actually for the Usos, where they go again for the double body splash off the ropes. Only this time it's Xavier Woods, and they place the steel chair over him, and both they down they came, both the Uso brothers. Body splash, steel chair, and Xavier Woods was the cushion, and there was enough for the pinfall, and the Usos regained their SmackDown Tag Team titles and walked away. It looked unscathed, but during the Smack Talk, it looked like Jay was just covered in ice packs. He was trying to hold up the microphone with one hand, the tag belt over one shoulder, and a couple of ice bags over the other. So definitely sore tomorrow. Definitely going to feel it in the morning. Hopefully there will be a masseuse or some kind of massage machine available at the hotel they're staying in. But definitely a great match, as always, delivered by the Usos and the New Day. No complaints there. We then move on to Rusev versus Randy Orton. Yeah. I guess this might have been the first kind of dull match of the night. Nothing special here. It's just a straight up one-on-one wrestling match. There was no interference from Aiden English. I guess they were trying to keep it one-on-one. Even though Aiden English was around, he did appear during the kickoff to sing a song. But typical match. Russo targeted Randy Orton's ribs, as of course, setting up for the accolade. And at the end, Rusev tried for the accolade, but of course Randy Orton counters, and then Randy Orton would hit a power slam. He'll set up for the RKO. Now this is something I've never seen before. As for those who are familiar, how Randy Orton quote unquote coils up, he gets into that laying down position, but facing down, so to speak. His stomach's on the mat, but he's pounding on the ring with his fist, his forearms, which at one point actually dislocated his shoulder because he did it so hard. But he's pounding, and Rusev was flat on his back. So instead of standing up and get RKO'd, Rusev will instead reach for Randy's arms, pull him in towards Rusev, and roll over and place him in, or try to place him in the accolade. which was very interesting. It's kind of difficult to describe, but basically, Rusev was laying down on his back, reaches up over his head, pulls in Randy on his arms, where he would place Orton flat on his stomach. Rusev would then float over, head over heels, and basically try to sit on Randy's back and place him in the accolade or the camel clutch. But Orton would slip out. Both men then stand up, and then immediately Randy hits him with the RKO and gets the 1-2-3. During the kickoff, Ty Dillinger walked into Daniel Bryan's office and just basically talked about what's been going on lately with SmackDown Live, his involvements with AJ Styles and Baron Corbin, his interference, and basically the combination of the three. And it was no surprise. It was just a matter of time, and this should have been something they could have mentioned this past week on SmackDown, but I guess suspense, or maybe even keep it as a surprise. But anyway, so then it was decided Daniel Bryan to place Ty Dillinger into the match for the United States Championship, making it a triple threat versus Baron Corbin versus AJ Styles, the champion. And for what it was really entertaining. Very entertaining. Baron Corbin was taken out early, and it was just between Dillinger and Styles for a while. And they kind of took turns in the ring here. So after a pretty technical match between Styles and Dillinger, and then it was Baron Corbin's turn to beat down on Dillinger while keeping AJ Styles out of the ring, and then they switched out. It was Dillinger outside the ring, and Corbin was beating down on Styles inside the ring. And at the end, everyone's signature moves were performed. Everyone's kicking out of the pinfall attempts. Corbin actually saved Dillinger from tapping out, even though, according to the announce team, even though it was a triple threat match, no DQs, no countouts, if a submission hold, in this case the calf crusher, was placed on Dillinger, it would not have mattered had he reached for the ropes as he was trying to. But instead, while Dillinger was reaching for the ropes, thinking it would break the hold, Baron Corbin reached in and pulled Dillinger out of the ring, releasing the calf crusher from Styles, and the brawl continued. And towards the end, it took a phenomenal forearm from the top rope, AJ Styles hitting Ty Dillinger and knocking him out. And just like a thief in the night, here comes Baron Corbin from the background of the main camera angle, and tosses out, or actually kicked out, AJ Styles. He wouldn't go the first time as he tried to, as AJ got stuck in the ropes. He got tangled up in the ropes, so Baron kicked him out. Then turns to his attention and pins Ty Dillinger, and there's a new United States champion in Baron Corbin. So I guess he gets the last laugh even after failing his Money in the Bank attempt earlier in the summer, and his one-off match with John Cena back at SummerSlam. And now that Cena's off SmackDown and for all intents and purposes out of Raw and WWE for a while, Baron Corbin ends up winning a championship anyway. Not the main one, but it's something, and honestly, it's about time. It's about time. This guy was losing a lot of steam this whole year. When he first debuted, we all thought that maybe he'll be a big-time player, possibly a contender for the WWE Championship, but obviously creative had a different idea, different plan in play, and Corbin was not on their radar for that time. But considering he's been on the main roster for a couple of years now, Baron Corbin, and he deserves it, or he earned it, I should say. And we'll see how this goes now, considering that another heel is a champion on SmackDown. So kudos and congratulations to Baron Corbin as the new United States champion. We move on to the SmackDown Women's Championship, Natalya versus Charlotte Flair. Keeping it, well, they opened up brawling, surprisingly enough. Well, then again, it's a personal angle here between Natty and Charlotte, with all the trash talking about each other's family and Bret Hart and Ric Flair in particular. So it goes from brawling and then turns into a technical match as Natalya started working on Charlotte's knee, obviously setting up for her sharpshooter. And Charlotte would counter this by working on Natalya's ankle for her figure four or her figure eight. But ultimately, it took Charlotte to be chop blocked from behind and reversed a sharpshooter attempt by Natalya. And at this point, Natalya was rolled out of the sharpshooter, meaning she fell backwards as Charlotte was trying to tuck her body in to counter the sharpshooter, and Natalya would hit the back of her head on the bottom turnbuckle. This leads to both women on the outside of the ring. Now, throughout the match, at least 2 attempts. Natalya was trying to do a moonsault off the top rope with her bad leg, and Natalya would either counter or just roll out of the way. This time, both women on the outside, Charlotte was able to knock down Natalya. She would climb to the top rope and hits the moonsault that way, meaning from the top rope all the way down to the arena floor, bad leg and all. Natalya just catches her. Again, these camera angles tonight were so horrible. But Natalya would just caught her enough to cushion her fall, but didn't matter much because shortly after, Natalya will recover and off camera, off screen, so to speak, would grab a steel chair and hit Charlotte in the gut, causing a DQ, and Natalya would retain her championship. More than likely, this feud will continue for a little while longer, going into possibly Starrcade. If you haven't heard by now, WWE is bringing back an old WCW pay-per-view name in Starrcade. So far, it's not going to be televised on a network of any kind, which is ridiculous, but, you know, whatever. But I believe that's going to be their next rematch. They may announce it this week or the following week on SmackDown, as it will take place during Survivor Series. During Thanksgiving weekend, matter of fact. The 25th of November. So we'll find out a little more. Hopefully they will televise it. They'll change their minds, or at least a tape delay of sorts. But we'll see. I prefer it to be on the network as a special. Next we had quite interesting and kind of head scratching the order of these matches tonight. But again, it is what it is. Next up was the WWE Championship match. Jinder Mahal defending against Shinsuke Nakamura. And of course, as everyone knows, the taunting from Jinder to Shinsuke, or there were a couple of stereotypical comments, insults. Of course, the infamous one that even the fans in the arena that night are chanting that he went too far. And he kind of did, but again, it just added fuel to the fire, and to their minds, they being WWE, any publicity is a good one. A really slow start. Mahal just kept Shinsuke grounded for the most part in the beginning with submissions, headlocks, chin locks. Try to work several times elbows to the top and the forehead of Shinsuke, but Shinsuke kept countering or would recover. And at one point, Shinsuke would have Jinder Mahal across the apron, where his top half, his head was hanging over the floor and his legs were inside the ring. So Jinder was looking for a knee drop, only for Jinder to roll out of the way, and Shinsuke would hit the ground, knees first. And this is where the Singh brothers were trying to interfere. The referee, at this point, was the second warning, and there wouldn't be a third one, as the referee had tossed out both Singh brothers, and the crowd popped big, as in finally the referee does something about this. And in the meantime, the referee's outside the ring trying to get the Singh brothers away from the ringside. They're at the bottom of the ramp. At the same time, back in the ring, Shinsuke hits Jinder Mahal with the Kinshasa. Kinshasa. That's probably it. Yeah. And pins Jinder, but again, the referee His attention is with the Singh brothers. Finally turns around, runs back into the ring, but only gets a 2 count. And at this point, it gets a 2 count because Jinder reached out and places his hand around the bottom rope. So the referee stopped the count at 2. And at this point, Jinder rolls out of the ring, tries to leave through the crowd. Shinsuke follows and just brings him back in, and tries to catch him in the collage, that Cobra Clutch slam from Jinder. I apologize for these mispronunciations of these names, these finishing moves. But Shinsuke counters, once again going for a Kinshasa, only to miss, and hits the turnbuckles in the corner. He backs into Jinder, catches him again with the collage, and hits him for the 3 count. So Jinder Mahal remains WWE champion. At this point, what can I say? If Shinsuke could not have won it on the second attempt, third time's the charm, maybe. But we thought of that before with Randy Orton and AJ Styles, and it just never came true. So it's safe to say that at this point, more than likely, Jinder Mahal will be WWE champion for the rest of the year, and they probably have no faith in Shinsuke. I know that's a lot to say. It's a heavy statement, but just look at how he's been booked as of late. Shinsuke Nakamura. He at one point he was off television for about 2 to 3 weeks because Jinder Mahal and the Singh brothers were in the ring making fun of him and showing picture stills of the man on the screen. Yes, I do know that was that one time he came out to retaliate, but then they were just right back at it the following week. So not too much, at least on television, how things have been booked. If I'm trying to keep kayfabe alive here, Shinsuke doesn't seem to be in the good faiths of the creative, but then again, everything goes and ends with goes through and ends with Vince McMahon. We'll see. Not that much of a entertaining match, but again, it is what it is. Did I miss some match here? I don't think I did. It was a long show, but not too many matches. So no, I'm good. I'm up to speed here. I'm up to date. Then we had a match similar to No Mercy, where there was the cruiserweight match, the cruiserweight title match with Enzo Amore and Neville, where a lot of people, no joke, they forgot that match was still scheduled, and it was squeezed in between the 2 main events. Same thing here, Dolph Ziggler against Bobby Roode, and the grand entrance of Dolph Ziggler was his music plays, the Titantron's going, the lights are going, and just a few seconds in, and then the record scratches, music stops, and it's just a spotlight, similar to Batista, but at least Batista kept his music playing. But everything went dark for Dolph Ziggler, and it was just a spotlight. Just walked straight down the aisle into the ring and started the match. Simple wrestling match here, and at least it was more entertaining than the Shinsuke Jinder match. And Ziggler tried to wear down Bobby Roode for the most part with sleeper holds and chin locks. And towards the end here, it took a sweet chin music attempt by Dolph Ziggler that he missed, and was countered by a glorious DDT. No, I'm sorry, an attempted glorious DDT by Bobby Roode, but Dolph slips out and nails him with an impaling DDT of his own. Roode would kick out of that, and then came an attempted roll-up in the corner, countered by Bobby Roode, then countered by Dolph Ziggler with a pull of the tights, and Bobby Roode counters with a pull of tights of his own and gets the 3 count. Did you follow that? It took a few roll-up attempts, and both men tried to pull the tights. At the end, Bobby Roode was the one with the advantage and pulled Ziggler's tights for the 3 count, and Referee didn't see it. Ziggler understandably stood up immediately, was upset, went right after Bobby Roode and laid him out with a zigzag and just walked away. Just left Bobby Roode laying there, walking away. Main event time. The second Hell in a Cell match of the night. Shane McMahon versus Kevin Owens. And this match was about a half an hour long, give or take. And a lot was done. I gotta say, this was a great Hell in a Cell match, one of the best we've seen in recent time. I'll say in the past couple of years, definitely better than the Shane McMahon Undertaker match we saw at WrestleMania. So starts off. I know. Keep in mind this was a Hell in a Cell Falls Count Anywhere match. You know, redundant much or common sense, psychology? You know, I guess no. That does not exist here. It does not. Presumably, the idea of Falls Count Anywhere, you could pin your opponent outside the ring while still inside the structure of Hell in a Cell. As we will find out, that was not the case. They literally meant Falls Count Anywhere. So if you just happen to find your way outside of the cell, then anything happens. And they proved that point because Shane McMahon was introduced first, and then down came Kevin Owens. He teased going in, and then he wouldn't go. He would tease again, and at that point, Shane McMahon was fed up. He went after Kevin Owens outside the cell, and the bell rings. And in the old days, you would have to wait for both participants to enter the ring to officially start the match, and the referee calls for the bell. That didn't happen here. Shane went after Kevin outside the ring. They started brawling. The bell rang, and the referee allowed it. And eventually, both men ended up inside the Hell in a Cell. And again, to prove the point that it was supposed to be Falls Count Anywhere inside the cell, one of the referees, the second one on the outside, locked the door to the cell and chained it up. So, giving you an impression, well, how are they going to get out if Falls Count Anywhere? Well, let's keep watching. So they continue brawling, and once that was done, Kevin Owens tossed out Shane McMahon outside the ring, tossed him around, literally around the cell, and noticed his Shane's three sons were sitting ringside and began taunting them. Kevin Owens yelling at them that he should be their role model, which I thought was hilarious the way he did it. Shane again would counter and eventually head back into the ring. There was an attempted shooting star press by Shane McMahon, but he crashed and burned. Good height though. He did get full rotation, but he ended up kissing the pavement and was out of it for a little while. Owens would then counter this with a frog splash, an attempted pinfall, but he kicked out. Shane McMahon would then counter a pop-up powerbomb attempt into a triangle submission hold, where Owens was able to slide out of the ring on the bottom rope, and Shane would apply it again, only this time Kevin Owens would counter with a powerbomb on top of the ring steps, well, at least the bottom portion of the ring steps that had been moved in position outside the ring, and attempted a pinfall on top of the steps. And Shane would kick out. And there'll be several more counters to power bombs. And oh my God, so much happened at this point. Yeah, there was a table spot. The crowd was yelling for a table. We want tables in both Hell in a Cell matches. They got it here, and then some. Kevin Owens will look around underneath the ring and eventually pull out a table. He sets it up diagonally, at an angle against the corner of Hell in a Cell on the inside. So his idea was to place Shane across the table, would jump on the apron and run across to do a cannonball, but Shane would roll out of the way, and Kevin Owens crashes through the table, missing the cannonball. And another pinfall attempt here by Shane, but he would kick out. Back into the ring, Shane would toss in a trash can, and we all know what that means. Shane would go coast to coast and nails Kevin Owens right in the face with a trash can from one side of the ring to the other, but Kevin Owens would kick out. Shane then tries to leave the the ring. Well, he leaves the ring, but tries to leave the cell and tells the outside referee to open up the door. Referee says, no, I can't do that. After the third time, Shane goes, okay, you won't open, I'll do it myself. Walks around to the opposite side and looks underneath the ring and happens to find a pair of bolt cutters. Takes it back to the door and cuts the chain off. And now Shane McMahon's on the outside. And Kevin Owens is still getting up from the coast to coast. Goes around and they start brawling again. They eventually make the way to the opposite side where the announce tables are. The SmackDown main announce team, the Spanish announce table, of course, they're always victims here. And here's where the last, I'll say, 10 minutes of the match, it's just edge of your seat, palms sweating, cringing. You don't know what's gonna happen, especially after about 18, 19 years ago, where Mick Foley infamously fell through the Hell in a Cell back at King of the Ring. Even though this year was the 20th anniversary of the Hell in a Cell, but that was Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. But I'm talking about actually being on top of the cage and the cage giving way because it wasn't supportive enough or it wasn't reinforced enough. Possibly underestimating the weight of the wrestlers at the time, but all that has changed. Everything's double, triple checked, and thankfully so, because once Shane and Owens got around to the opposite side where the announce tables are, Shane wanted to crash through Kevin Owens on the announce table. Didn't work, so it was reversed. And then Kevin Owens places Shane on top of the announce table, the Spanish announce table, of course, after it was cleared off. Owens was going to frog splash Shane McMahon through the table off the security barrier there. He stopped, the wheels were turning, then he looks up. And of course, this got a huge reaction from the crowd. Owens looks up towards the top of the Hell in a Cell. He jumps off the barrier and starts climbing the Hell in a Cell. He's on top of the cell. Owens is going to jump off and crash through Shane McMahon. And he didn't. Owens thought better of it. He just couldn't as Corey Graves said, he couldn't will himself to do it, as it was too risky. Maybe he got cold feet, but point being, he never did it. At one point, Kevin Owens showed frustration of not doing it. He walked away while on top of the cell. And this allows Shane McMahon to eventually sit up and climb off the table, and he starts climbing up the cell himself. And they brawled up here for about 5 minutes. And there were body slams, there were Russian leg sweeps, there were suplexes. There was even a pop-up powerbomb. All of this on top of the cell, in the same spot too, and in the same little section of the cell. If you look from the overhead position on top of the arena, looking at the roof of the Hell in a Cell, kind of looks like a giant checkerboard. So they hit all these moves on the same spot. Presumably, it was one of the most, if not the most, secured area of the cell, and they just kept dropping each other over and over again. And you could hear and see the audience cringing. I was too. I was just hoping nothing bad happened. These guys were putting it all on the line. But eventually, after the pop-up power bomb, obviously you couldn't pin your opponent because the referee never climbed up there. So at this point, Kevin Owens starts climbing down. The fans start booing. Well, he's smart. And then Shane doesn't chase him. He just stops him from climbing all the way down, as he stopped him about halfway down, which makes him about 10 feet off the ground at this point. And Shane McMahon starts pounding away, and eventually Kevin Owens lost his grip, and he fell crashing and burning through the Spanish announce table. And we would thought that would be the end. Shane would climb down and get the pinfall. But no, Shane climbs down eventually, sees that the EMTs were checking on Kevin Owens, but Shane wouldn't have any of it. So then Shane would set up Kevin Owens on the, the American broadcast table, and climbs up back to the top of the cell. So there's a repeat of, well, there was going to be a repeat of The Undertaker here from WrestleMania. And only this time it took a little while longer. And I wondered why. I caught that. Well, why is it taking much longer? Not so much for him to climb up, but once he got up there, he took his time, or as if he was waiting for something else. But again, try to keep kayfabe alive here. We would see why. All of a sudden, there's a wide camera shot of the arena facing towards Kevin Owens laying on the announce table. And, of course, Shane McMahon symbolically gave himself his last rites. He leaps, he falls, and there's no Kevin Owens. Like, even Corey Graves says, I guess he was watching from the audience at home's point of view, where did Kevin Owens go? He like literally disappeared. The live shot of Shane crashing through the table, there was no Kevin Owens in sight. It took the replays to realize that there was a mysterious assailant that I thought was one of the trainers or one of the EMTs standing by on his knees, maybe a little too close, but nonetheless safety first. But it turned out it was Sami Zayn in the hood and assisted Kevin Owens off the table, allowing for Shane to crash through the table. And at that point, everybody was wondering, what the hell is Sami Zayn doing? Why? Why, Sami, why? Mind you, at this point, the match is still continuing. The bell never rang. It was just a bunch of ENT guys, trainers checking on Shane McMahon. And the referees were trying to keep everyone else at bay. All of a sudden, Sami Zayn realized, wait, there's still a match and falls count anywhere. So Sami brushes away everyone else to clear the pathway. He drags Kevin Owens to Shane McMahon and places on top. Sami Zayn yelling at the referee to make the pinfall count. Referee hesitated, and someone yelled, that wasn't Sami, I don't believe, but someone yelled, that's false count anywhere, and the referee makes the 3 count, and Kevin Owens defeats Shane McMahon in Hell in a Cell, well, at Hell in a Cell, outside Hell in a Cell, in a false count anywhere match. And that was the show. Again, obviously, the talk of the town would be, as far as SmackDown Live goes, is going to be why Sami, why? And Renee Young pointed out during Smack Talk, he was just powerbombed on the apron a couple of weeks ago by Kevin Owens, and here he is now assisting Kevin Owens for a win over the SmackDown commissioner, Shane McMahon. And unfortunately, Shane McMahon didn't walk out on his own. He was placed on the gurney. A neck brace was put on as a precaution. But he gave the thumbs up on the way out when he was heading up the apron. I'm sorry, heading up the rampway, and gave the thumbs up right before they went off air. So he's giving the okay, thumbs up, I'm okay signal. But sometimes you never know. But in all honesty, I hope Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon are both doing well. They're gonna be sore for a few days, so I wouldn't be surprised if neither one physically competes this week on SmackDown, and give them the time to recover. I'm sure they'll still appear on television to respond to what happened, but not to get too physical. But we'll see. But overall, again, it was a pretty good show. Again, not the best, but it was pretty good. Both Hell in a Cell matches lived up to the hype, lived up to what was expected, and the matches in between, of course, with the WWE Championship match, Shinsuke and Jinder Mahal, just another disappointment. Not so much the outcome, but the match itself. Shinsuke has performed and is better than this. I don't know what is running through the minds of the booking team or the writing staff or whatever, or what other suggestions are being thrown around besides Vince McMahon's having final say. But it was very disappointing. I'm looking forward to the continuation between Natalya and Charlotte Flair. Eventually, at some point, Carmella's gonna cash in. Of course, the Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler feud is going to continue for a little while longer, definitely. And there's not much left for Rusev and Randy Orton to do. I mean, there are so many SmackDown matches and pay-per-view matches that they could have that look too similar with each other. That being the matches themselves that they have look too similar from one day into another. It's just a different setup for the ending, and that gets dull after a while. But I still appreciate the athleticism, how physical Randy Orton can get, and how strong Rusev is. But I feel they got to come up with something new to keep the interest alive, to keep the fans intrigued just long enough. Also, Baron Corbin becoming the new United States champion. Where is that going to go? Will AJ Styles get his rematch at Survivor Series or on SmackDown? Will Ty Dillinger try to chime in for a rematch? And even if it's neither Styles or Dillinger, who will be Baron Corbin's challenger as United States champion? Definitely interested in that. Maybe Bobby Roode, but he's tied right now with Dolph Ziggler. So that's my review of Hell in a Cell 2017. Again, it was a pretty good show. I might have said otherwise at the beginning, but going back through my notes here and reviewing the show, I gotta say, no, second thought, yeah, this was a pretty good show. Can't really complain. It was a nice book-ending type of pay-per-view with opening and closing with a Hell in a Cell match, and again, both matches delivered. And I can't compliment them enough. And looking forward to if they ever televise it, Starrcade, we'll find out. And then coming up is TLC, but that's for Monday Night Raw. And of course, it's going to be that time again where both brands meet each other at Survivor Series, and then this NXT Takeover War Games. Finally, both Triple H and Vince McMahon somehow came to grips, even though it's Triple H's baby. But War Games is finally returning under a WWE umbrella at a NXT event. And it looks like it's going to be a triple threat triple threat tag team match with 3 members of each team facing each other. It's not going to be, I don't believe it's going to be for a championship, neither for the NXT title or the NXT tag titles. But from what I heard, not to spoil it here, but from what I heard of the participants, it looks like it's going to be pretty good, at least on paper. But then again, this is NXT, and they rarely, if ever, disappoint. So NXT Takeover War Games just rolls right off the tongue, and it sounds so exciting just saying it out loud. So if you like what you hear, leave a comment, click that like button, and subscribe. Let me know what you thought of this year's Hell in a Cell card. What did you think of the new champion's crown? What did you think of Jinder Mahal, still WWE champion at this point in time? And if you check in the description, I'm all across social media if you want to follow me at Good Old JM. So until next time, it's Good Old JM. So everyone be safe, be good, and I'll see you around.